Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first in my series of character analysis for Dragon Quest XI. So today we're going to be starting with the very first character in the game, as you might expect, the hero. Now what I'm going to be doing with these videos is I have this FAQ on screen, as you can see. I'll link this in the description below. It has a guide for every single character in the game, in-depth look at all the skills. The writer tends to give their opinion on things, which I'm going to choose to ignore because I don't always agree on it, and I'm just kind of using it for the information. So yeah, take that with take this opinion with a grain of salt. But anyway, I'm gonna be going through all the characters, and I might show some clips of the skills I'm talking about on screen if I can be bothered to edit in the footage. But I want to kind of give my opinion on what's best for all the characters, what skills are worth using, what weapons you should go with, all that good stuff. So yeah, starting with the hero. So he has access to two different weapon types, swords and great swords, and then he also has a special sword mastery branch as well as his luminary abilities. So yeah, that is quite important. So these are just the spells he gets as he levels up, just like a mix of everything really. He gets access to some offensive magic like Frizz, Sizz. Sizzle, he later gets some light elemental damage spells like Bang and Boom. These I never really tend to use. These like Frizz and Sizz spells are pretty okay early game. Early game especially because yeah, deals fire damage to a group of enemies. Early game you might struggle for AoE damage from the hero. So that's something to keep in mind. More notably though, he gets some utility like evac. Obviously gets the zoom spell, which isn't listed here. That's kind of like not really included. Some of the things that are a lot more useful though obviously is healing. Early game, you know, he has access to heal, and mid heal and more heal. That's nice. He gets zing if you don't have access to Yggdrasil leaves yet. And then I'd say that some of the better stuff that he gets is definitely the snooze and snooze. I don't remember which of the characters get these, but it's definitely nice. Also for the fact that these build into the Dirge of Dundrasil pet power with Rab, which is one of the better pet powers in the game. A very high chance of sleep. And he also gets Kazing if you don't want to use Yggdrasil leaves. That's always nice. I don't know why these sword skills are listed here. I think I'm just going to come back to these later because these aren't spells. So yeah, so anyway, they're gonna go into some stuff, but I'd say honestly don't bother really with his light magic. There are better options. The hero's magical might isn't fantastic unless you raise it with seeds, and honestly I wouldn't bother. He has plenty of other options with his swords, so let's get into that now. So okay, I'm gonna go through all the skills of swords and great swords, and then I'm gonna talk about which one I prefer if you don't already know. So here we go. One-handed swords. Flame Slash deals 1.2 times your base fire damage to a single enemy. This isn't bad early game. This is one of the first sword skills you can get. So very early game, you know, it deals a little more damage than your basic attack. That's okay. And if an enemy's weak to fire, then it's going to do a little more. So that's not bad. Sword Stance. This is one of the best sword skills. Increases parry chance by 33% for 4 turns. So yeah, this is not bad. One-handed swords, I believe there's no one-handed sword in the game that has innate parry chance. So sword stance is pretty good if you're comboing this with using a shield, which yeah, the hero can also use shields only if he's wielding a one-handed sword. If you combo this with a shield, then you're gonna have a pretty high parry slash block rate. So this is okay, especially early on because you're not gonna be dual wielding early on. So you'll have a pretty high chance to block, I guess. Dragon Slash. 2 times damage to a single enemy if dragon type, 1 times damage otherwise. So yeah, this is pretty good if you're obviously fighting a dragon. If you're not fighting a dragon, it's pretty pointless. But yeah, 2 times your base damage, that's pretty good. Again, early game, although there's not really that many dragon type enemies early game. And later in the game, you're gonna be able to deal more than 2 times your base attack with other skills. So yeah, there's that. Metal Slash deals 1 or 2 damage to metal slimes. I wouldn't even bother. This ability and like the metal killing abilities, I would not even bother with these. The best way to take out metal slimes is with critical hits, and as soon as we want to go farm metal slimes, you're gonna have access to things like Serena's Thunder Thrust and just all that stuff. I guess it's okay if you're just killing the normal metal slimes in like Gallopolis and you don't want to use Thunder Thrust, but honestly I never bothered with it. I don't, yeah, not really needed. Miracle Slash deals 1 times damage to the target and you recover 25% plus 20 HP. Yeah, again, never really use it. Doesn't deal any extra damage. You get a little HP back, but if you actually need the HP, like actually need HP back, then you're probably just gonna heal anyway. And if you don't need the HP and you don't want to do damage, then you're gonna use another skill that's actually gonna deal damage. More damage than just 1 times your base. So I think Miracle Slash is pretty shit, actually. And it's, you know, it's a hefty amount of skill points to get. It actually requires you to go around and get a hidden panel rather than working towards something else. So I would ignore Miracle Slash. It's actually, in my current playthrough that I'm streaming on, it's actually the very last skill I ended up getting for the Luminary. So yeah, I mean, the writer is correct here. Swords in DQ11 are very underwhelming. You're goddamn right. Great Swords. Okay, here we go. Here's some good stuff. Great Sword Guard. Increases parry chance by 33% for 4 turns. This is really good. I'd say this is better than Sword Stance. Even though they're basically the same skill. Great Sword Guard, in my opinion, is better because Great Swords already have an innate chance to parry. Especially later down the line, you're going to get up to really high parry chances with this on top. So they're basically the same skill. They're both good. So yeah, this is good. Helicopter deals 1 times damage to a group of enemies. No damage reduction on subsequent hits, which is what makes this pretty good. I actually like this a lot. Early game, this is Hero's best group attack because, yeah, swords right here, as you can see, there is no group attack. There's no AoE attack here with one-handed swords. You have to rely on his magic. Helicopter is 1 times your base damage to all targets and you get no penalty. So I think this is actually really good. Low MP cost as well, so I like it a lot. Don't really tend to use it late game, but, you know, early to mid game, definitely worth it. Cutting Edge, this is pretty nice. You kind of stop using Cutting Edge once you get Unbridled Blade, but while you have it, this is obviously good. I mean, it's up to 2.25 times your base damage. It can't crit, unfortunately, but that's okay. Early game, especially with Great Swords, you're really not going to have much crit, and you're going to want that consistent damage, and 2.25 up to 2.25 times your base is really good. So yeah, definitely use it. Frost Fangs, this one's underwhelming. On paper, it sounded nice, and I actually thought it would be better than Helicopter because it can freeze enemies, and it actually has, yeah, 25% chance. It's a pretty high chance. The only problem with this is it has like a damage cap on it, which we'll be seeing quite a lot. So Helicopter always tended to do more damage as you progress further. And again, yeah, I just wouldn't waste the points on this, honestly. The freeze is nice, but most of the time on groups of enemies that you're going to want to be taking out, you just want to kill them. There's no real point in stunning them. And it's not reliable enough to really use reliably. I don't know how else to put it. Anyway, yeah, Unbridled Blade is essentially just an upgraded Cutting Edge. This is a really good one. Up to 3.1 times your base damage. Again, it can't crit, which sucks, but this is really, really good. One of Hero's bread and butter damage skills until late game, or like until around Act 2, once you get access to some of his sword mastery stuff, which we'll get into. But yeah, definitely Unbridled Blade is going to be your bread and butter great sword skill for a single target for quite some time. So I like it a lot. It is 16 MP, which is kind of hefty, but you're going to be using this mainly in boss fights, so that's okay. And yeah, again, I forgot to mention with swords, there are obviously passive panels. Dual wielding you get under the sword tree. Now, this is the thing. I'm gonna admit something here that might be controversial. I'm gonna say that, yes, potentially late game one-handed swords might outdamage great swords. Because of dual wielding, the ceiling for swords is higher than great swords, because I haven't actually raised my hero strength that much with strength seeds, and he's already hit the 999 damage cap, or attack cap, sorry, with great swords. But with one-handed swords, he's got a while to go with that, and obviously he can dual wield. So he can like dual wield Uber Falcon Blades, and the damage like from just regular attacks might be better. But I think in general, great swords is better for the whole game. Later on, you get really good great swords. Great swords always can parry. Obviously, you can equip a shield with one-handed swords, but then you're suffering a lot of damage loss from not dual wielding. So that kind of stinks. So you can go back and forth, but I think ultimately great swords are much better for the hero. His sword skills are super underwhelming all throughout the game, in my opinion. I mean, having Unbridled Blade, which you can get fairly early on, is just way better than anything that swords offer. So yeah, I would honestly highly recommend going with great swords. Also, you get more innate crit chance. As you can see, there's a crit chance plus 2%, crit chance plus 3%. You only get 2% here. And then, especially late game, I've already shown you can get stuff like the Legate's Greatsword, which gives you another 8% to crit. So if you go full crit on the hero, you're going to get some really good crits. And pair this with one of his sword mastery skills, and you're going to see a lot of crits under the hero. So yeah, that's definitely the way to go, in my opinion. Yes, greatswords are clearly the powerhouse between heroes' choices of weapons. I mean, even at the start of the game, you come in pre-equipped with no shield and a one-handed sword, and a greatsword in your inventory that is already better. So I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sword mastery. This tree can be accessed throughout both trees, I guess. You do need to go through both trees to get all the skills. So Falcon Slash, unfortunately, in this game stinks. It doesn't factor in dual wielding. So you're actually gonna get, I believe, more hits or more damage just by attacking by dual wielding Falcon Blades than actually using Falcon Slash. Now, if you're not using Falcon Blades and you want to use other swords like the Sword of Light and the Stardust Sword, things like that, the things that aren't Falcon Blades, then Falcon Slash would be probably your best option. Excuse me. But yeah, I really wouldn't bother. You're gonna hit like a wet paper towel in comparison to some other stuff like Unbridled Blade and Sword Dance, which we'll get into soon. Now we got all the Giga skills, and yeah, I don't like these skills very much. Gigaslash and Gigash are the one-handed sword abilities. Now, the good thing about these is they deal lightning damage, so they're never really going to be resisted very often. But the negative about this is that they're capped in damage. I will say the one-handed sword versions, the Gigaslash and Gigash, are actually better, because as you can see, they hit all enemies rather than just a group. And Hero doesn't have much in the way of hitting all targets. So these are actually okay. It's, well, at least Gigash. I don't know why. I guess it's MP cost. Why you would ever use the weaker variants, then yeah, I don't know. But honestly, I just never really bother with these. But I guess Gigash and Gigacrash could be okay to a group of enemies, or I guess this one would actually be pretty good if you get it early enough, because 410 damage to all enemies is pretty respectable in the mid game. So yeah, anyway, Sword Dance, sorry. Probably Hero's best defensive ability, in my opinion. It's amazing. You can use it with swords and great swords. Deals 4 hits of 0.7 times damage. In total, you get 3 times your base to random enemies within selected enemy group. So you can use this on a group, although it will be random. But on a single target, this is really good. And it doesn't mention it here, but every single hit can crit, which is what makes it even better. So if you get enough crit, like with the great swords, and combine it with Sword Dance, then it's going to be really good. And now if you use this with one-handed swords, it's just not as good. You're not going to get as much total damage. You do get 1 extra hit if you dual wield, which is like a weak hit from your offhand, so it's not even worth it. So great swords combined with Sword Dance is amazing. Definitely his best defensive option. Getting crits on this feels great. So definitely one of his best offensive abilities, in my opinion. Definitely make a beeline for this. Unfortunately, to get this, you have to go through the sword tree a little bit as well. So it does take a little bit of time. But I managed to get this right around the start of Act 2. My level, I was around level 40. So, you know, it's not too unreasonable for the power that it has. And then, Blade of Ultimate Power. Ironically, this is dog shit. Blade of Ultimate Power is dog shit. Yeah, deals 400 to 700 damage to a single enemy. It has a cap. It has capped damage. with a little variation to a single target, and it's 48 MP cost, and to top it all off, it's like the furthest away in a sword tree. You have to get all of these skills, these giga skills, to get access to this. All of these are pretty high skill point costs, like 36 skill points, 25 skill, another 36, another 25, and then this one's another 36. By the time you're getting this amount of damage is laughable, especially if you're boosting strength. So yeah, don't bother with this. It's garbage. I don't know why it's so bad for the name of it and the MP cost. I mean, look at the MP cost of Sword Dance. Look at the skill point cost of Sword Dance. I mean, this is 3 times your base damage, and this has got a damage cap on it. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. And then some passives, another 3% crit. That's amazing. Counter when blocking and parrying is amazing. Another reason why I like Great Swords. If you put up Great Sword Guard or Sword Guard, Sword Stance, whatever, then you'll be able to counter if you actually get parried. So it makes it even more worth putting up your parry stance than just a defensive option. So honestly, a Sword Mastery tree is amazing just for Sword Dance and for these passives. The rest of it is very, you don't need any of it. And then finally is Luminary tree. This has got some good stuff in it, a lot of passive stuff, as you can see. I tend to leave this tree till last in terms of what I need from it. I tend to make a beeline for Sword Dance, and then I start getting some of this stuff. So Zap, I mean, if you get this early enough, this is okay. I mean, yeah, lightning damage to a group of enemies, that's pretty good early on if you want it. Poof, I've never used. I guess if you try and do this on weaker enemies, it could be good, but the thing is with this game is that I guess if you're playing in 2D mode, this could be okay. But this game doesn't have random encounters, so if you want, 9 times out of 10, if you're fighting a group of enemies, it's because you want to fight them. Except on the ocean. But that's why Holy Protection exists. Make lower level enemies run away from you. Prevent random encounters while on the boat. 30-second duration. Ends immediately upon screen transition. I actually bashed this skill a little bit when I first started. I said it was bad. It's actually pretty good because I forgot about, obviously, random encounters on the ocean. This is really nice to avoid those. But even more so, holy crap, going into Tickington with this is a must. Trying to do the Tickington stuff and going through those zones in 2D mode without Holy Protection, you're gonna be banging your head against the wall because the encounter rate is so ridiculous in those zones. It's insane how high the encounter rate is in 2D mode. So Holy Protection is a must if you want to do that stuff. So yeah, definitely get it. Pep Up, one of the best Luminary abilities actually. This is amazing. I mean, it just lets him pep up for as long as he wants. It lasts a little shorter than natural pep. I didn't actually know that because I never really tend to notice it. Because most of the time I use this if I want to complete a pep power. So say Eric and Jade get pepped up, I bring in Hero, I use pep up, and then boom, I got a Hallelujah without actually having to keep the hero in the party. So this is amazing. It's pretty broken, but obviously only the Luminary gets access to this. So it just makes him really flexible, makes some pet powers a lot more flexible, so it's really, really nice. Clang is absolute garbage. You can become invincible for 2 to 4 turns, but you can't act on a single ally. This is garbage. Don't use this. If you're like, I can't think of a situation where this would be good. Not being able to have your party members act. If you're in that of a dire situation that you need to become invincible to not die, then why would you want to make your standing party member unable to act? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Zapple, again, just an upgrade of Zap. This is good depending on when you get it, because Zap, this one's pretty damn good actually. I mean, 720 lightning damage to a group of enemies. Like on a group, Zap doing up to 720 damage, that's pretty good. That's pretty respectable. Even in the late game, I'd say that that much damage on a group is damn respectable. Obviously it goes off magical might though, so I don't know how much raising his magical might will affect this, but yeah, this is okay. And you need this for a quest in Act 3. So I definitely recommend at least picking up for that. Full heal is nice if you don't want to waste like an Yggdrasil will do, or use Omni heal if there's just one person needs healing and for some reason hero's only healer in your party. It's good to have. Omni healer is of course good. Not as good as in other Dragon Quest games, unfortunately, because Yggdrasil dudes are so easy to come by. But if you don't want to farm them, or I mean, you can just get them from the casino. It's so easily. But if you don't want to do that, or if you just want to save your supply, I guess, which I do sometimes do, I guess you can use Omni heal. I mean, it's 64 MP cost, which is pretty steep. But most of the time it won't matter. And then Big Banger steals up to 310 fire damage to a group of enemies. Yeah, I mean, it's around 300-ish damage to a group. It's okay. You're better off using something like Kazap, or actually even Zapple. I mean, this is double the MP cost, but Zapple is nearly just as good, so it's alright. Nothing to write home about, though. But then all the passive buffs are definitely where it's at. This stuff's amazing. Well, it's not amazing, but he gets a lot of nice stuff. I mean, he gets a hell of a lot of strength, which really helps with not having to farm as many strength seeds for him. Some agility, pep chance, pep power up is always nice. All this nice stuff. So that's all really nice. So yeah, there we go. And I guess the fact goes over some of what he thinks his downsides are. I mean, I'd say I agree with this. He's got Snooze, 2 solid weapon types. Yeah. Good skill trees and great stats all around. I mean, yeah, he's the hero. He's an all-rounder. He can heal. He can use offensive magic. He has amazing damage output. He's also like tanky. You know, he's the only character apart from the 8th party member that can use great shields. So, oh yeah, and Quadra Slash. Where is this? Hey, yeah, here we go. I forgot to go back to these. Quadra Slash. Deals 130 to 360 damage. I mean, it usually deals around 400 if you're higher level. This is okay. Again, it's one of his, you know, only decent all-targeting abilities. Like I said, that's what actually one of the benefits of Gigaslash is this actually has a little bit of a higher damage potential to all targets than Quadra Slash. So I guess it's got that going for it. But I mean, it's not really that significant. The hero definitely does struggle with all targeting damage, which is unfortunate, especially in stuff like the Wheel of Armor. You're going to want to make sure that the hero isn't facing those big separated groups, like all different enemy types, because he's going to struggle a little bit, because he's not going to be able to deal amazing damage, because Quadra Slash and like all that has pretty low damage cap, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, I'd say the hero is definitely, you know, a great party member. I mean, you spend all of the game with him. There's not a time where you're not with him, apart from the interlude, in the definitive version. So he's very well rounded. So I would say definitely go Great Swords. Make a beeline to Sword Dance when you can. What I do is I go through Great Swords until I get Unbridled Blade. That carries me through Act 1 in terms of his, you know, main damage output. And then once I've got the points, once I've got Unbridled Blade and what I want from Great Swords, I take the points and I go through what I have to go through the sword tree to be able to go through Sword Mastery and get Sword Dance, which is definitely his best defensive skill. After you get Sword Dance, you can kind of do whatever you want. I'd say Pep Up is a pretty high priority. Obviously, Holy Protection. Then you can just kind of do whatever you want. Make sure you're getting, you know, the good passives and stuff. And yeah, that's really all there is to say about the hero. He is solid. I mean, what more you expect? I didn't even mention these because they're kind of garbage. These splitter skills, you get them way late in the game. These are garbage. Don't bother with them. I mean, 230 damage cap is pathetic for the point you get it in the game. So I'm not even going to mention those. But yeah, that's all there really is to say. Hero's a great character. I'm going to be spending a lot of time with him. Use Sword Dance. Great Swords are good. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one where I'll be talking about Eric. And yeah, enjoy your time in Dragon Quest XI. See you next time. Bye-bye.